As I say, Peter James is my name. I'm the Director of Career Life Transitions, and we'll be talking about coaching and mentoring today. So as I was saying, the big news is that we've moved locations to the centre of Subiaco. So if you're in the area, we're right behind the Crossways Shopping Centre. Nice new offices there. So if you're in the area, please stop in and say hello. Anyway, we're going to be looking at the difference between mentoring and coaching. What role should you play, or who should play what role, and what are the essentials of the structure you'll need, and how to set up the program to gain buy-in. Okay. So just in my experience, I guess that starting up businesses, and even to businesses to an extent when it's heavily management oriented, I've just noticed that what I call a three-headed monster paradigm that a lot of organizations have, that people don't need leadership and development, that they don't need training development or career progression, and people do whatever it takes to make money for the company, which is, I guess, when you have someone who's started a company or very task-oriented management team, then they're not looking at the softer side of that. And given that, at least half the population is concerned about these kind of things, not everyone is, but at least half the population is, then unless you're catering for a broad range of interactions and engagement with your employees, then you're always going to end up with a disconnect between a certain percentage of them. It could be as high as 50%. So bearing in mind that exists, I guess the evidence is according to the Hayes salary guide that only half people say or this is what they're saying, the reason why people are leaving their current roles: lack of promotional opportunities, lack of new challenges, poor training development, and a poor work-life balance. So given that these are the reasons people are leaving the organization, it comes back to the three-headed monster paradigm, that the evidence kind of supports that premise. So this is an interesting one. I know it's American companies, but the amount of money that organizations spend, and the Harvard Business Review a number of years ago put out quite an interesting article, which was really talking about the amount of money that is spent in training development, the actual impact that has on people in the organization. And I guess the article cited that training development, for the most part, if I send someone away in a training program and then they come back and I haven't changed the context of which they can apply the new learning, then that new learning goes out the door. So in other words, if I want to send my top leader on a training program, send them off to Harvard School or the business school or whatever, if they come back, they will still adapt and operate within the context of which they left. It's very, very difficult for an individual to come back unless they're the manager or running the organization, I guess. But if you're sending your people away doing training programs, which is really, I guess, starting to support the whole basis of coaching and mentoring in an organization. That recognition that sending someone off in a training program, they get a nice certificate, they can add it to their CV, there's no value or return on investment for the business, because a lot of times they come back and everything they've learned, there's no context for them to actually put it in place. So I guess that's really what started the rise and support for coaching. So good leadership is important. People join your organization to engage their technical professional skills, but they leave it because of culture, personality, or values misalignment. And my premise is that's probably on the basis of poor management and leadership skills in the organization. So what is the difference between coaching and mentoring? Well, mentoring is that relationship you have with someone that's guiding someone with less probably knowledge and experience than you do in the broader context of life, the business, the industry, the profession. So it's a relationship. And I've certainly, my mentors who are not directly involved in the industry have probably been the best mentors I've had, because they're not already, they don't have their mental filters set up around the context of which I may be working in. They certainly look at things much more pragmatically. They look at things from, I guess, challenges. They look at things from different points of view that you may not have considered because you're kind of in the middle of the mud, if you like. So it is really a great learning and development partnership. And I always recommend, if I'm even in an organization, that someone in a department is not your mentor. If you're working in the accounts department, you're in the sales department, you're engineering, R&D, whatever that is, that if you're looking for a mentor, you look for a mentor completely outside of your department. But then coaching is more specifically aligned to the role you're playing. And a coach would apply to a business coach or a football coach or a netball coach or whatever, where I'm really looking at adding value or developing a set of skills specific to the game or the job that you're doing that meets the organization's needs and can provide some measurable business results. And as I say, that's where now having that coaching, where it's having an impact on the coachee as well as the coach, that you are actually starting to change the context, and there's a broader understanding within the organization as to what the change is and how to sustain that change, as opposed to sending someone off to develop some skills in a completely different context. So there are many reasons as to why you might choose coaching for someone, and developing further skills within the current role. And a lot of the coaching that we do is someone has been technically recognized for their skills and competencies, put into a supervisory role, and then struggling with the interpersonal skills. So it's almost a bit of a catch up, if you like, where until they're actually in and working, some of those, I guess, opportunities for improvement don't stand out until they're actually put in the context of it. Some organizations get ahead of it and say, well, we want to promote this person, and we're already looking at some of the areas where they need some further development and skills. Or it's adjusting and refocusing behavior in the current role that may be having a negative or discouraging impact on the team or the business. So there are other factors we recommend you consider before you meet with a coach. Internal, external, which way should you go with that? Is a coach the best medium to develop the knowledge and understanding? In other words, are we talking about behavioral change? Are we talking about development of knowledge? Because I can send someone away to develop a set of knowledge and skills, or train that independently, if it's, I guess, there's not the complexity in it, especially the complexity that interacting with people has. It's important that the coachee agrees to be coached. And I think that's probably one of the most important ones. Just because you see a development skill or development deficit that you like to build on, nominating someone to coaching who comes in and then doesn't believe that they need the coaching, even though they've agreed on the surface just to appease their boss, those coaching opportunities really probably aren't that successful. I guess the other side of it is the coachee that doesn't believe they need the coaching, or really is not investing their time into that they've been nominated for some reason. So it's important the coachee doesn't think that it's a punishment, and that's what I usually say to a lot of people that walk in, that we're working with and developing and coaching. If the business is prepared to invest in your time in coaching, that it's not a punishment, it's a development of skills. Is the investment of value to the individual team? Is an investment? Are your areas of development very clear? In other words, if you're setting out on coaching, and we always get a manager together, possibly HR, the coachee, and the coach together to say, let's all agree as to what we're working here. There's nothing worse as a coach of coming in and almost becoming the messenger for the manager, where the manager really hasn't had the intestinal fortitude to point out some of the areas of development that's required, and leaving it up to the coach to fill that gap. That doesn't work all that well either. So that's about speaking candidly to the coaching candidate. So mentoring, reasons you may include mentoring is developing more esoteric skills such as political, behavioral, values, culture, things like that, that you're setting up and establishing a succession plan where you need someone to move into a broader scope of understanding of the business, moving up through the ladder and embedding the company culture, which is, as I say, a lot of the culture really is the stories and the behaviors and the actions of the leaders in the organization, and really passing on the knowledge and skill and ability for the next level up to pass on to people who report to them is really important. That's where I see a lot of breaks in culture. I see organizations that the management or even the startup of the initiator of the organization has a very, very clear culture. The first level of people that they employ, they really embed that culture in, but they haven't actually taught those people how to embed it to the next layer down. And that's where, or the layer down below that. So that's where these kind of breaks in culture, where you have a disconnect between what the most senior people in the organization think the culture should be and what's actually being delivered at the bottom line. So there's a number of factors we recommend before you're engaging in mentoring. That's, what is the goal and objective? What are you trying to achieve out of this? Does the mentor understand the role and is willing to engage? In other words, if you're asking someone to be a mentor, do they understand what they're meant to be doing? Has a mentor agreed to be mentored? Do we need measures in place to understand the impact? Do we have the right structure, sorry, spelling error there, and framework and other benefits well understood by other stakeholders? So we're not mentoring. It can be a very, very relaxed relationship. And I've certainly have some mentors where it's not particularly structured. But if you want to use this to develop skills in the organization, then actually building some kind of structure around it will support it, because the issue with either mentoring or to a certain extent coaching, but certainly mentoring, it can just turn into coffee catch-ups and general discussions. And pretty soon, any of the value that you're trying to achieve out of it is quickly washed away, and all you've done is really just increase your coffee bill and taken productivity time out of the workforce. So coaching programs are targeted towards results and performance. They're usually shorter term. They're high level of structure, specific to current work roles, done between direct reports, and their expectations are short-term changes and results. In other words, like a football coach or a netball coach, I'm watching the game, someone's coming off, and I'm making those suggestions, changes, and supporting them through that. Mentoring has a different set of focuses. It's on personal growth and development within the organization. It has longer term focus. It's a lower level of structure. It's not necessarily role specific, as we were saying. It enables people to start to network within the organization and company, and usually at more senior levels, educating the individual about the specifics of the company and looking at longer term change through support and encouragement. So that's where we see, and so mentors can set up as quite a long-term relationship with people, which is, as I say, is really engaging them and I guess bringing them into the fold of the larger organization. So mentoring the bigger picture, share and retain knowledge, promote diversity, create continuity of culture, and ensure adequate supply of leadership talent. That's why you'll be setting up a mentoring program in your organization. So what role, who should play what role? Well, people who need mentoring that come to the organization are usually your new employees, graduates, your rising stars, any kind of minority groups you might have, women in traditionally male-dominated environments, and leaders and managers around any major change or transformation. In other words, things that are happening outside their standard remit. And where you're asking them to use a set of skills that maybe they don't have. So the roles and responsibilities in terms of the mentor and coaches: be available, act as that role model, challenge the individual, hold people accountable, which is important. You're identifying skill gap technically and behaviorally, developing a relationship of trust where you can provide some honest feedback and be direct in your conversations, providing that safe, risk-free environment, you're able to share your experience and expertise and partner with the mentees. Now, as a mentee or coachee, they have a role to play as well, and you certainly need to hold them to account if they're involved in this program. I'm too busy to attend to things like that is not really acceptable if you've invested in setting a mentee, a mentor-mentee, or coachee program. That they're proactive. They tend to schedule meetings and maintain that contact. They complete any planning documentation that's required. They're identifying their own personal strengths and understanding themselves, looking at their own professional development goals and identifying their needs and interests and reviewing their own progress, so that they're actually actively involved in it, and the goals and outcomes they're looking for themselves are very clear. Now, obviously, people have different levels of engagement. Some people just want to come to work and do their job and go home. But I mean, really, when we're talking about investing in mentoring and mentees and coaches and coachees, you're looking at that, I guess, that progression, the group of people in the organization that are part of the succession plan moving into senior roles in the business. So there is a progression. Now, how do we go about doing that? So, I mean, I guess when you start any kind of business, you're doing the job. You start as an accountant or you start as an engineer. You're doing engineering work, you're doing accounting work. But as you move along, if you have the skills and you're recognized for those technical skills, you usually get promoted into a people manager role. Now, there's that vocation. Once you move into people manager role, now you're talking about a whole range of transferable skills in terms of behavioral skills, people engagement skills, motivational skills, leadership skills, things like that. So it is a new set of learnings. And I guess I see in a lot of organizations, there's that expectation if someone's going to move from the work of the role into supervising people who are doing the role, that they're all automatically going to be able to handle, manage, or understand the people interactions and the responsibilities of interpersonal interactions that comes with that promotion. Then there's the next change, and that's moving into senior management roles. And that's the business of the business, which is a lot about company, industry knowledge. And it's, once again, a whole new set of skills. And I guess that progression, you have to be quite proactive or get quite a bit of support from the organization to make that transition. At certain points, someone's going to say, well, this is okay for me. Being an engineer and just doing engineering is okay for me, or managing this team or managing my department, that's as far as I want to go. That leap into senior management, once again, has a whole new set of skills around legal and finance and stakeholders and things like that. So each stage of your career progression actually does require a whole new set of skills. Now, I mean, obviously, going and doing an MBA, for example, is allowing you to move from, or giving you the skill set there from moving to people management to senior management. But that is a knowledge-based activity. It's not a competency-based. And this is where your mentoring and coaching comes in. Just having an MBA does not automatically mean that you're senior management material, for example. So what are the essentials of this structure you'll need to make all this happen? Well, you really need senior buy-in and sponsorship. I guess most of these programs kind of die on the vine when senior people in the organization think it's a bit of a waste of time or money. Sadly, when there's a bit of a downturn in the economy and what have you, these kind of programs tend to be the first ones that are cut, which is not always the smartest thing to do. But as I say, it's certainly a low hanging fruit in terms of cost saving. That there are policies and approach, there's, whether it's informal, formal, recorded, ad hoc, things like that. How are you going to actually roll out the program? That we actually take the time to train and develop coaches and coachees as to what their expectations of the meetings are. We have some measures in place. We provide feedback, and there is a strong desire and need to develop coaching and mentoring positively to impact the business. So internal in coaching and mentoring best practice. On the left-hand axis, we have that coaching and focusing models, processes, and practices. But on the bottom, though, we have focus on appropriate business imperatives obviously the best is a combination. If it's just about the business practice imperatives, then you're delivering just practical business content, and you're not really, I guess, supporting and developing those transferable skills as a basis of that. If you're just on the left-hand side, yeah, it's all really great to understand the models and practices of coaching and what have you, but if they don't align to the business, what value you're adding back to the business. So it's looking at that, not that mechanical techniques and not that meandering over, through the business. It's that really measurable, valuable, sustainable development where I have a fairly solid coaching focus and practice, and I've aligned that fairly clearly with the needs and requirements of the business I'm operating in. I mean, a lot of coaches come in, if they don't understand the context of the business they're operating in, you can kind of develop those skills, but you're really leaving it up then to the coachee or the mentee to figure out how to align them to the business, which is, once again, it's for a lot of people, it is a bridge too far. You need to be filling those gaps. So this is an interesting one. I mean, this a large company I work for that did embark and enroll a successful mentoring coaching program out within its organization. And these are the things that they said they put it in place for. We need to continually and consistently develop people in our values, culture, systems, and processes. Our sustainable advantage is people. That we have a succession planning, which is important to our future, that we are competently, heavily in a national and international market for talented human resources, competitive because we are competing. So in other words, I want to be an employer of choice. We've already invested an enormous amount of money in our professionals, but we want to continue that. And professionals that come to organization, once again, you want to be an employer of choice. They're demanding this kind of support, and especially younger generations coming into businesses. And a strong mentoring program provides us with a powerful recruitment tool and retention tool on top of that. So this is, as I say, the specific goals and objectives of one large West Australian company as to why they embarked on coaching and mentoring. So how do we set up a program and gain that buy-in? Well, there are various ways I can go about doing coaching and mentoring. It can be one-on-one, we can have group, it can be informal, formal, structured, mandated, voluntary. So I mean, they're the different ways you can go about approaching the program, and a lot of it has to do with cost, availability, goals, objectives, that type of thing. So you want to be considering this as you're moving forward. So you're building a context of coaching and mentoring that suits your business and your business structure. Mentors and coaches need to know why they're invited to be part of their corporate programs. They need to know how they can be useful, contribute, and what is expected of them. So you're making it very, very clear right from the outset as to what the structure is and gain their buy-in and the context of which they'll be delivering this. It's not much good going to someone who's already absolutely flat out and asking them to make a couple of hours available to coaching a week or mentoring if that's not their own desire or their own willingness to get involved in that over on top of their day job. So as I say, you really, when you're rolling these things out, you need to be looking at the broader, I guess, context of it and what structural changes you need to make in the organization to make it happen. It just doesn't roll in, and it has ramifications that need to be mitigated. The company leaders are often skeptical about the need for coaching and mentoring and how exactly it'll benefit the organization. So you're looking for resources, the buy-in to the mentoring program. You're looking for funding, and you're looking for executive advocates. So you need to build that business case. And as I say, it's always a challenging one, as I say, when you're dealing with technical aspects of it, especially if your senior management team are very financially focused or legally focused, where the measures are the measures. When you're talking about esoteric things like coaching and mentoring, you really need to start to join the links and the benefits to that back to the business. So it needs to have a business case that is very, very business aligned. You need to have measures in place so when you roll it out, you're actually able to demonstrate there's a return on investment. If you can't determine that investment, then once again, you may find your program dies on the vine if the company leaders don't become skeptical, or their skepticism is reinforced, if you like. So, summary, as I say, our recommendations, it starts with leadership. Throughout the process, the leaders need to be involved and thoroughly briefed. It's not just a HR project. And I think that's where if HR are left to run with it, people in other areas of business may not see the connection to them. But if it's seen as a leadership imperative that is being supported by HR, not owned by HR, then you're probably going to get a little bit more buy-in. That we're always looking at building that open, honest, and timely communications that builds that trust. And if we go back to Lencioni's team building model, the bottom line is they're developing trust. And that's important in terms of any mentoring and coaching. Open, honest communication and timely communication is the basis of good coaching. That we look at things from the participant's point of view and take the steps to support them so that it has the most positive and strongest impact for the people. And that the projects are meant to help the business. So it's for the good of the organization. And you want to be looking into the positives and growth as quickly as possible, demonstrate the feedback to the business that the coaching program is adding value. And as I say, if you're spending a lot of money sending people off on various courses, whether it be at your TAFEs or at university or private providers, things like that, it seems to be seen as a quick capital or operational write-off. But when you come back, even though the one-on-one may be a little bit more expensive, if I'm, as a coach, able to operate within a business and actually target specifically rather than generally any particular subject, target specifically to the needs of the individual, because if you go to a training course, they're looking at the full gambit of skills, and some people have those. The mix is different, so I need to cover everything. When I'm coaching, I'm really targeting things specifically for that individual, and because I'm operating within the context of the business, it's going to have a much more positive effect in a shorter amount of time. So, as I say, career life transitions, we provide that structured planning, outplacement support, staff training, leadership and development coaching, and resilience training. But I guess that brings us to the end of the session. Shelley, do we have any questions from anybody at this stage, or?
Not at this stage, Peter.
No. Does anybody have any questions or any comments or anything about it? I'm just having a quick look at. Okay, we got some chat. Okay. No, that was just me.
No. Okay,
no worries. We obviously covered everyone's requirement adequately. So as I say, career life trains, our contact details are in the back there behind me, phone number and our email address or website address. So please, if we can assist you in any way or you want some more information, we'll be sending out a copy of this presentation to you all. Thanks for attending, and there'll be a copy of the recorded and the PowerPoints as well. So please think of us if you're looking at setting up mentoring and coaching programs in your organization, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for your time this morning. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.